Express White Sasha! Reggae! Uraraka! White Sasha! Uraraka!
A spaceship drifts through the void. Inside, a frozen astronaut sleeps, lost for 5 centuries. When he wakes, Earth has been rebuilt from nuclear ashes, and he's the only link to a forgotten past. This is Buck Rogers in the 25th century, and it almost didn't exist at all. What started as a rejected TV pilot became a theatrical blockbuster, assembled from spare parts of another canceled show, starring a hero who rewrote his own scripts. From NASA coincidences to toys that vanished overnight, these 15 facts reveal the strange, scrappy journey of sci-fi's most underrated time traveler. Let's dig in. Number 1. Born from a 1928 pulp novel. Before disco jumpsuits and robot sidekicks, Buck Rogers was born in the pages of Amazing Stories magazine. Philip Francis Nolan's 1928 novella, 2419A. D. Introduced Anthony Rogers, a World War I veteran who falls into suspended animation and wakes 500 years later to fight tyranny. The name Buck came later, when the story jumped to comic strips in 1929. From there, Buck conquered radio serials, movie cliffhangers, and eventually television. By 1979, he'd been reimagined for 4 different generations, proof that Americans couldn't stop dreaming about the future, no matter how many times it changed. Number 2. The real NASA Ranger 3 connection. Here's where reality gets eerie. In the show, Buck pilots a spacecraft called Ranger 3 that goes off course and drifts into deep space. In real life, NASA launched a probe called Ranger 3 in January 1962, and it missed the moon entirely, sailing off into solar orbit. The mission failed. The probe was lost. And 17 years later, Buck Rogers used the exact same name for the exact same fate. Coincidence? Creative homage? Nobody involved ever confirmed it, but the parallel is too perfect to ignore. Sometimes, fiction borrows from failure. Number 3. A villain almost as iconic as the hero. Enter Princess Ardala. Played by Pamela Hensley with the confidence of a woman who knows she's stealing every scene. Draped in glittering gowns and dripping with ambition, Ardala wasn't just another space villain. She was glamorous, commanding, and unapologetically powerful. In 1979, that was rare on television. She wanted Buck, she wanted Earth, and she made no apologies. But as the series continued, her role shrank. The writers couldn't figure out what to do with a villain who refused to be one-dimensional. So Ardala faded. Not because she wasn't beloved, but because the show couldn't keep up with her. Number 4. The movie that accidentally became a hit. Universal Pictures didn't believe in Buck Rogers. The 2-hour premiere was designed as a TV pilot, nothing more. But someone had a wild idea. What if we released it in theaters first? It was a gamble born of desperation. Star Wars had proven space opera could print money, so why not try? They cut the pilot into a feature film, added some effects, and threw it into cinemas in March 1979. It cost $3.5 million. It made $21 million. Suddenly, the test episode was a blockbuster, and NBC had no choice but to greenlight the series. Buck Rogers became a hit by accident. Number 5. Built from Battlestar Galactica's bones. Here's the secret. Universal didn't advertise. Buck Rogers, in the 25th century, was literally constructed from the wreckage of another show. Battlestar Galactica had just been canceled, leaving warehouses full of expensive props, ship models, and set pieces. So the producers raided the ruins. Spaceships were repainted, costumes were resized, entire corridors were reused. Buck's sleek future wasn't built from scratch, it was scavenged from Galactica's leftovers. It was cheap, it was efficient, and it worked. The 25th century stood on the bones of a fallen show, and nobody watching at home knew the difference. Number 6. Future cities were real buildings. Those gleaming cityscapes in the opening credits? Not matte paintings, not miniatures, real buildings. The production team filmed actual 20th century landmarks and passed them off as the distant future. Los Angeles' Bonaventure Hotel, with its cylindrical glass towers, became a symbol of New Chicago. Montreal's Expo. 67 pavilions, designed as futuristic architecture for a World's Fair, were repurposed as Buck's home base. It was brilliantly pragmatic. Why build the future when it already exists? The 25th century was hiding in plain sight, and all it took was a camera angle and some clever editing. Number 7. Toys that vanished overnight. Mego Corporation saw gold. Star Wars action figures were flying off shelves, so why not Buck Rogers? They produced an entire line. Buck, Colonel Wilma Deering, the villainous draconian soldiers, and of course, Twiki the robot. The toys hit stores in 1979, and for a moment, it seemed like lightning might strike twice, but the show's ratings couldn't sustain the hype. When Buck Rogers fizzled, so did the toy line. Retailers slashed prices, shelves cleared. Today, those figures are collector's items, rare, expensive, and weirdly nostalgic. What failed in 1979 became valuable in retrospect, which is maybe the most Buck Rogers thing possible. Number 8. Season 2 changed everything. Season 1 was pure escapism. Disco space adventures, campy villains, and Twiki cracking jokes. The formula worked. Millions tuned in every week to watch Buck charm his way through the 25th century, while Aaron Gray's Colonel Wilma Deering rolled her eyes at his 20th century swagger. It was light. It was fun. It knew exactly what it was. Then Season 2 arrived and decided to get serious. The network wanted prestige. The producers wanted Star Trek-level philosophy, exploring religion, mortality, and the human condition. So they made radical changes. First, they fired producer Bruce Lansbury and brought in John Mantley, who'd worked on Gunsmoke, a Western producer now running a sci-fi show. That should have been the first warning sign. Next, they completely restructured the premise. Buck was no longer Earth's defender. Now he was assigned to the Starship Searcher, hunting for lost human colonies scattered across the galaxy. They hired a new cast member, Wilfred Hyde-White as Dr. Goodfellow, an elderly scientist, and introduced the Searcher's sentient computer, voiced by William Conrad. The Earth Defense Directorate? Gone. Princess Ardala? Barely mentioned. The entire world building from Season 1 was abandoned. The tone shifted dramatically. Episodes tackled heavy themes, a planet where primitive humans worship technology as gods, a space vampire draining life force, an encounter with cosmic beings debating the value of human existence. One episode literally asked whether humans deserve to survive at all. These weren't bad ideas, they just weren't Buck Rogers. The audience revolted. Ratings collapsed almost immediately. Viewers didn't want depth. They wanted lasers, adventure, and Twiki's wisecracks. NBC watched the numbers drop week after week, and by spring 1981, they pulled the plug. 24 episodes, one season. Number 9. The villain who died and came back anyway. Tiger Man was a fan favorite, a hulking, beastly henchman working for Princess Ardala, played by H.B. Haggerty, a former professional wrestler and stuntman. Tiger Man wasn't your typical sci-fi villain. He was 7 feet of muscle wrapped in fur and fangs, a literal human-tiger hybrid who communicated mostly in growls and snarls. He looked like he'd walked off the set of a Planet of the Apes sequel and decided space opera was more fun. In the theatrical cut of the pilot, Tiger Man meets his end in spectacular fashion. During the climactic battle, he literally explodes in a fiery death aboard Princess Ardala's flagship. The camera lingers on the destruction. There's no ambiguity. He's gone. Case closed. The audience gasps. The hero wins. Roll credits. Except when the TV series started airing later that year, Tiger Man was back, alive, well, and standing right next to Ardala like nothing ever happened. No resurrection scene, no magical revival, no clone explanation or that was his twin brother handwave. He just returned. The show pretended the theatrical ending never existed, and Tiger Man casually strolled back into continuity without so much as a scratch. The behind-the-scenes reason was simple. Test audiences loved him. When Universal screened the pilot, viewers responded enthusiastically to the wordless, intimidating presence of Tiger Man. He had screen presence. He was visually striking. He was memorable in a way most henchmen aren't. So when the series got greenlit, the producers made a calculated decision. Bring him back and hope nobody notices the contradiction. And here's the twist. It worked. Fans didn't care about the continuity error. They were just happy to see Tiger Man again. In the early episodes of the series, He became a recurring presence, lurking in the background of Ardala's schemes, occasionally getting into hand-to-hand combat with Buck. He didn't need dialogue, he just needed to look dangerous and be loyal to his princess. It was pure fan service over logic, and honestly, nobody complained. The producers knew audiences loved him, and weren't about to let a little thing like death get in the way of good television. Number 10. Buck beat Doctor Who. In the UK, Buck Rogers aired on Saturday nights, the exact same time slot as Doctor Who, and for a glorious, bizarre moment, Buck won. His ratings were so strong that Doctor Who's numbers dropped, forcing the BBC to reschedule the Time Lord to a different night. Imagine that. An American disco space captain forcing the most iconic British sci-fi hero off his own turf. It didn't last, of course. Doctor Who rebounded. But for one brief shining moment, Buck Rogers conquered Saturday nights in Britain, and that's a victory nobody saw coming. Number 11. Critics hated it, but fans didn't care. The reviews were brutal. Critics called it cheap Star Wars, campy nonsense, and a waste of money. They mocked the special effects, the stilted acting, and the obvious recycling of sets. But fans? Fans loved it anyway. They didn't care if it was corny or low budget. They cared that it was fun. Over time, that sincerity became its strength. What started as mockery evolved into cult classic status. Today, Buck Rogers is beloved precisely because it never pretended to be more than it was. A scrappy, earnest space adventure made by people who just wanted to entertain. And in the end, that's enough. Number 12. Guest stars galore. Flip through the credits of Buck Rogers, and you'll find a time capsule of late 70s Hollywood. Jamie Lee Curtis played an alien android. Jerry Orbach, years before Law & Order, was a scheming con artist. Gary Coleman showed up as a psychic child. The show became a revolving door of familiar faces, some on their way up, some coasting on past fame. It gave the series an unpredictable energy. You never knew who'd walk onto the set next. And for actors, it was a paycheck and a chance to play dress-up in space. Everyone wins. Number 13. The Arcade Resurrection. When Buck Rogers disappeared from TV in 1981, he didn't fade away. He jumped into arcades. Sega released Buck Rogers, Planet of Zoom in 1982, a fast-paced rail shooter that put players in Buck's cockpit. It was colorful, loud, and addictive. Ironically, the game outlasted the show. While NBC moved on, arcade cabinets kept Buck alive in pizza joints and bowling alleys across America. For a generation of kids, Buck Rogers wasn't a TV hero. He was a video game, and in a strange way, that kept him immortal longer than any network ever could. Number 14. Twiki was two actors in one. Twiki, the pint-sized robot sidekick, was more complicated than he looked. Felix Silla performed inside the costume, waddling around the set in the sweltering metal suit. But the voice? That was Mel Blanc. Yes, the Looney Tunes legend who gave life to Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck. For most of the series, Blanc's distinctive bitty 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 made Twiki unforgettable. But during 5 episodes in Season 2, Blanc was replaced due to a contract dispute. Bob Eliea took over the voice, and fans immediately noticed. The magic was gone. Blanc returned, and balance was restored. Turns out, you can't replicate a legend. Number 15. Behind-the-scenes battles. Gil Gerard didn't just play Buck Rogers. He fought for him. The actor constantly clashed with writers who wanted the show to lean into campy humor and one-liners. Gerard believed Buck should be a serious, grounded hero, not a punchline. This wasn't ego. This was an actor who understood that if Buck became a joke, the entire show would collapse into parody. The tension started early. The original pilot script was filled with quips, winks at the camera, and self-aware humor that essentially turned Buck into a space-age comedian. Gerard hated it. He'd read scenes where Buck was supposed to make dated 1,970 seconds references and smirk his way through danger, and he'd immediately start crossing out lines. He wanted Buck to be a real person, a man genuinely displaced in time, struggling with isolation and culture shock, not a wisecracking tourist in the future. So he rewrote his own dialogue, sometimes on the spot during filming. Directors would call action, and Gerard would deliver completely different lines than what was on the page. He'd strip out the jokes and replace them with straightforward, earnest responses. Writers would show up on set and discover their carefully crafted comedic timing had been gutted. Naturally, this didn't make him popular in the writer's room. The producers tolerated it because Gerard was the star, and frankly, he had a point. The show was already campy enough with disco-era costumes, Twicky's bitty bitty bitty, and villains dressed like they were heading to Studio 54. If Buck himself became a cartoon character, there'd be nothing for the audience to anchor to. Gerard understood that someone needed to play it straight, or the whole thing would float away into absurdity. Erin Gray, who played Colonel Wilma Deering, later confirmed the conflicts in interviews. She respected Gerard's instincts but noted that it created a challenging atmosphere on set. Writers felt undermined. Directors had to navigate between what was scripted and what Gerard would actually perform. Some episodes became battlegrounds, with Gerard insisting on changes right up until the cameras rolled. The writers resented it. Some left the show. Others complained to producers that Gerard was impossible to work with. But here's the thing: when you watch the show now, Gerard's performance holds up. He's not embarrassing himself. He's not mugging for laughs or treating the material with contempt. There's a sincerity to his Buck Rogers that makes the character work, even when everything around him is ridiculous. And looking back, maybe Gerard was right. His determination to treat Buck with respect is part of why the character still resonates decades later. He refused to let the hero become a joke, even when the show wanted him to be. In an era where sci-fi was often dismissed as kid stuff, Gerard insisted on dignity. He fought to make Buck Rogers a man worth following into the 25th century, not because the scripts demanded it, but because he believed the audience deserved better. Sometimes, the actor knows the character better than the writers do. And sometimes, stubbornness in defense of quality is exactly what a show needs. Gil Gerard was difficult, demanding, and occasionally infuriating to work with. He was also probably the reason Buck Rogers is remembered as anything more than a camp curiosity. Buck Rogers in the 25th century was messy, scrappy, and born from the leftovers of a better-funded show. But it carved out a legacy anyway, one weird fact at a time. If you love this trip through TV history, hit that like button and subscribe for more forgotten gems. Thanks for watching, time travelers.